Hello again and welcome to this second section on working with text in PowerPoint 2013. In the previous section we looked at some of the basic formatting of text and we talked a little about placeholder text boxes. In this section I'd like to tell you a little bit more about text boxes and the different types that are available, and look at some of the other type of formatting we can do and what we can do in terms of text effects. So let's get started. So let's start another blank presentation. There's a straightforward keyboard shortcut for that. It's Control N. And with the blank presentation, as we saw before, you get a title slide with two placeholders on it. Now it's very important to recognize that when we're working with any kind of template, including this default one, the placeholders on it, the text placeholders in this case, are positioned in a consistent way. If I wanted to put on a new slide and I chose title and content, gives me slide 2. Do the same thing again, new slide, gives me slide 3. Within each slide as I select it, I have placeholders that are accurately positioned based on a template, and we'll talk more about templates, layouts and outlines later on in the course. If when I get these I select those placeholders and start changing the size of them, and I start, for instance, making that one a bit smaller, maybe making that one a bit bigger, then I'm going to change the overall consistency within a presentation. The basic idea behind the slides in a template and the placeholder shapes on those is to give consistency throughout a presentation. So if I was doing one such as the one we looked at earlier, talking about the tabs on the ribbon of PowerPoint 2013, having developed each slide from a template slide means that the positioning, sizing and so on is consistent. So it's a good idea to avoid resizing placeholders too much within a presentation. However, sometimes you need text where there isn't a placeholder text box, and in this situation you have to use a different type of text box. Now this different type of text box behaves in a different way to the placeholder text boxes, but also they have many features in common as well. On this occasion I'm going to add a slide to this presentation which is completely blank, and if I click on a blank slide there is no placeholder, there's nowhere to put some text. So in order to put some text here, we're going to insert a text box, and on the Insert tab in the text group one of the options is Text Box. Now this draws a text box anywhere, and in order to draw this text box we click that button, and as you move the cursor over the slide the cursor changes to become a vertical line with a little sort of cross at the bottom. It looks like something like a sword upside down, and you basically draw the text box. Now don't be too confused by the size of that box at the moment, but the first thing you must do is type something. This is a manual text box, and a manual text box behaves in a very different way to a placeholder text box. First of all, as you may have noticed there, it automatically resizes itself vertically to make space for what's in it. It doesn't resize itself horizontally, only vertically. The placeholder text box, if you remember, was of a fixed size, and you could change that size by dragging the handles, but the thing that the placeholder text box will do automatically is to change the font size to fit the text into the box. The manual text box in a way works the other way around. It adjusts its own size to fit the text. So if I selected, say, the words manual, a manual text box, went in and changed the font size from 18 point to 80 point, it automatically changes the height of the box. It doesn't automatically change the width, you can change that manually, but if you tried to change the height of it manually, it doesn't change the font size. What actually happens is it refuses to do it. It insists on fitting the text inside itself. So there we have the very important distinction between those two types of text box. Now I'm really oversimplifying here, but let me just outline what the situation is. When you're working on a presentation and you want to line up text, headings, content, everything to be neatly aligned and standard throughout a presentation, try to stick to the placeholder text boxes. By the way, you can create your own placeholder text boxes, but more of that later. But if you need a text box to do a particular thing in a particular place that maybe is a little bit different from the standard, it's not part of the template, you're maybe labeling a bit of a diagram, something like that, then insert a manual text box. But in both cases, be aware of how each text box works and the sort of thing that it can do. Having said that, the fundamental features of a manual text box in terms of many of the things we need to do are just the same as they are for a placeholder text box, and I just want to run over one or two of those again. So here I have a manual text box. If I select part of the text, say 3 letters, and go to the Home tab, the font group, I can, for instance, change the color of just those 3. If I click within the text, say between the U and the A in manual, so that I can see a flashing cursor there, and press the delete key, I will delete the character to the right of the cursor. If I select the whole text box, so I click on the outline so that the outline of the text box, the border, becomes a continuous line, and go to the font group on the Home tab and change the font size to 24, it will apply to everything within the box. It applies to the whole box because I have the whole box selected. Similarly, if I press the delete key when I've got the whole box selected, I will delete the whole text box. So there we are. So there are important things to remember about the difference between selecting a text box and having a selection inside a text box. Now I'd just like to show you one other thing in this section related to text. Let's insert a text box, although this will equally work in a placeholder text box. And what I'm going to do is to insert a special symbol. Supposing I want to put the character pi in there. Click on the Insert tab, and in the Symbols group on the right there is a button Symbol. Now this gives access to a set of special symbols that we can insert. It's a very extensive range of symbols, and if I want to find the pi symbol, it's actually here on the right. There's a list of recently used symbols. If you've got a new installation of PowerPoint, this will be set up with a sort of default recently used set, but as you use your installation of PowerPoint, that will get updated. So let's have the pi character there. Click on Insert, click on Close, and I've got a pi character in there now. And also you can insert equations. Now inserting equations is outside the scope of this course, but worth knowing that you can do it. There are also a number of other options associated with text, such as inserting headers and footers, inserting word art, a couple of other things that we can do. One or two of those we're going to come back to later in the course. They're special cases of text, and I'm going to fit them into the appropriate part of the course material. So that's it on working with text at the moment. As I said, we'll be coming back to some special cases of text later in the course, but for now I'll see you in the next section.
If this is your first time here, click on the subscribe button to get similar videos every week. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, new videos are uploaded to our YouTube channel. If you want to see similar videos, click on the links under Check Out These Tutorials by Simon Says It.